Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's Monday, November 18th. This month is flying by. It's going to be Christmas before you know it. Before we get started, at 8 o'clock tonight, I'm going to put a link in the description. I hope I have this episode out before then. But we're having a live premiere on Courtroom Confidential with Josh Ritter. We sat and talked about my life before Pretty Lies and Alibis in the world of true crime, and then after. And it was super fun. I don't like watching myself. I never do, but I'm going to sit and chat with everybody as they watch it. So come join us if I get this out by 8. If not, you can watch the replay. We are going to jump in because we have a lot to cover today. The first witness up was Joshua Epps. He is a patrol sergeant with the University of Georgia Police Department, and he responded to the apartment complex the day after the murder, which would have been February 23rd at 8:32 a.m. He was there for about 12 hours and didn't leave till 9 that night. When he got there, Jose's brother Diego had already been detained. Due to the fact he couldn't speak English, they ended up calling in 2 Spanish-speaking officers to do translation. They play as body cam footage. We see Diego sitting outside their apartment. Another officer shows the witness a still photo from a video they had recovered from that dumpster video. The witness noticed the hat from the video and the hat Diego was wearing was pretty much the same. When he looked on the back of the hat, he saw dirt. He was on scene when Laken's body was found and remembered her body had a lot of dirt on it. Diego was detained for having a fake green card. It had 2 separate birth dates on it, but the officer didn't see any deceptive behavior with his body language and said Diego was being cooperative. The distance, by the way, from where Jose discarded the jacket to where Laken's body was found was only about 500 yards. They get Diego to show his hands. He had no injuries. They ask him to take his jacket off to look at tattoos and for any other injuries. He shows his stomach and his sides. There was nothing there. He had a teardrop tattoo under his right eye, which the witness said is a potential gang affiliation tattoo. 9:38 a.m., Argenis, Jose's other brother, comes out with a trash bag. He was detained and photographed and said something was on the stove that needed to be turned off. So Argenis gave consent for the officers to go inside the apartment and turn the stove off. And you see the female Rose Belly, who was inside, and the officers tell her to come outside. Then you see Jose kind of lift his head up from the bed. They tell him to come out as well. The witness noticed that on Jose's bicep there was a scratch. His left forearm had a scratch which looked like fingernail scratches to the witness. He saw a puncture wound on Jose's left wrist, which was about a 1/2 inch wide, and the witness said it looked like it could be from a fingernail, and it was fresh. As Jose was moving his wrist, the witness could see liquid in the cut. Jose's left palm had bruising right near that puncture wound. He also noticed that Jose was heavier and shorter than Diego. The witness said while the group was detained and not cuffed, Jose smoked cigarettes and they all were laughing. The witness told his officers to make sure that they were listening to what they were saying. On cross, the defense asked when they saw the hat on Diego, was it red clay dirt? The witness said yes. They asked if Diego was a former employee at the University of Georgia in a dining hall and had access to certain areas. Yes. They asked if Jose was asleep when the witness first saw him. Yes. The witness said he had to essentially wake Jose up. They asked if he was slow getting out of the bed. Yes. They asked when he saw injuries, you didn't see blood. The witness said that the scratches were not deep enough to really draw blood, and the only wound he saw that could produce blood was on the wrist with that puncture wound, and he said there was no scabbing. The next witness, Rafael Sayan, he is with University of Georgia Police Department. He trains new officers. His parents are from Peru, and he grew up speaking Spanish. He came to the apartment complex to help translate and got there about 8:45 a.m. While he was speaking to Jose, he said the others were talking and laughing and giggling. They were talking about how they were woken up and pulled out of the apartment. He said overall, the atmosphere was relaxed and calm. So he translates for the court what was said on body camera and also how Jose answered. Jose shows his hands palmed down, and the officer asks why his knuckles are red. Jose says because of the cold. The officer asks about the scratch on Jose's right bicep. Jose said he got a scratch but did not elaborate how. As far as that puncture wound on the left wrist and the scratch on the forearm, at first, Jose said there was nothing there, but then he points and says it's just a scratch. The witness said that injury looked like it had a little bit of pus in it and also says it looked fresh to him. The officer asked Jose if he was struck in the mouth. Jose said no, it was the cold air on his lips. It was in the 50s and 60s, by the way, in Athens on this day, not like 20. They asked Jose to raise his hair and ask why his forehead was red. Jose said he wears a hat. They ask what kind of hat. He motions to Diego and says something similar to that. That was the end of the conversation on body cam. On cross, the defense asks, when you asked about a hat, he gestures to Diego. He doesn't say, I wore that hat. I wore one like it. The witness says yes. The next witness, Annie Mormon, she's with the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. She helped with the search warrant, took photos inside, and they show photos from the search warrant. They were told to look for specific clothing, anything that looked to be blood, any blunt objects that could have been used to create the injuries Laken sustained, and anything of relevance. In the search of the kitchen, they found those plastic black kitchen gloves. The witness said they were restaurant style, and that was the same kind of gloves that were found in the bushes in the apartment complex. She took 2 tablets and 7 cell phones. 2 of the devices belonged to Rosebelly and Arhenis. They were processed on scene with their consent. That witness was on scene around 8 hours. Rosebelly identified 2 devices belonging to Jose. On cross, this witness was involved in a neighborhood canvass, talking to people, seeing if they knew anything, and spoke to 2 individuals named Jennifer and Stephanie. The witness was on a balcony above Jose's apartment, and she said they could hear snippets of the conversation below. One of the witnesses, who will be testifying tomorrow, by the way, said she was fearful. There was an objection by the state about hearsay, saying that she could testify tomorrow to her state of mind. The witness said they did a secondary interview with this witness across the street at a gas station. The defense asks about the condition of the apartment. The witness said it was messy. It was a studio apartment, which is everything other than the bathroom is in one open room. There was also only one closet, which had boxes in it. It was messy, as you could imagine, with that many people living in one studio apartment and one closet where clearly they had no room. On redirect, the state asks about the neighbor who said she was fearful that morning, but then asks the witness if she smelled as if she was under the influence of alcohol. The witness says yes, and that was it. The next witness is Rosebelly, who lived in the apartment with Jose. She's from Venezuela and has been in the United States. She says a year. We find out later she actually came in May. But on the stand at this point, she said September of last year. She came with her partner. They lived in Queens, New York before they moved to Athens. She met Jose in Queens through his mother-in-law. By the way, yes, Jose married. She knew Jose about a month before they moved to Athens. She called him Victor and not Jose. She said they came to Athens for work. Diego, Jose's brother, told them there was work in the area. She said they requested a humanitarian flight from New York to Atlanta around September 9th or 10th of last year. And then once they landed in Atlanta, a friend of Diego's came and picked them up and drove them to Athens. They moved into the apartments where they were all found. Arhenis's name was on the lease, but when she and Jose arrived, only Diego lived there. Arhenis at this point was living in Florida. Once she got to Athens, she got a job at a Wendy's and then also in a Korean restaurant. Jose got the job at the Korean restaurant with her. And when Arhenis moved up to Athens from Florida, he also got a job at that same Korean restaurant. On the day of the murder, she woke up around 10 or 11 that morning and started cooking with Arhenis. Then the two of them went to work. She said Diego and Jose were still at the apartment and were all asleep when they left that day. But at this point, the murder has happened and happened a couple of hours ago. She got back that night around 10 p.m. and everybody was home. She said after work, she would sit outside and smoke and saw a lot of police cars. A neighbor from across the way told her that somebody had been killed nearby. She told Arhenis that something had happened at the apartment complex, and he told everybody else in there, including Jose, and there was no reaction by Jose. The next morning, she was awoken by the police telling them to wake up. She said that when the police entered the apartment, the witness and Jose were asleep, and the police told them to come outside. Later that day, she went to the Athens Clarke County Police Department to give a statement. She gave another statement on March the 4th when she was shown still photos and videos. She identified Jose in the video by his hat and his flip-flops. She also recognized the hoodie jacket that he was throwing in the dumpster. She said she had seen him wear it since she moved down in September, and it was strange to her that he was throwing it away. She also said Diego and Jose would share clothing. On cross, the defense asked if she came in the summer of 2023 to the U.S. That's when she said initially they got to El Paso, Texas, May the 3rd, and then made their move to New York City. Jose's wife, Laken, lived in the Crown Plaza, which was a hotel, but it was being used as housing for immigrants in New York City. The witness said at some point during that summer, both she and Jose lived in a car together for a few weeks. That car was parked on the sidewalk right beside the Crown Plaza where his wife was staying. She learned through Jose that his brother Diego was living in Athens and had invited Jose to come to Athens for work opportunities. Jose told the witness to come as well. It was only Diego living in the apartments at the time. Arhenis was living in Florida, and he came to Athens in November 2023. That's when he got the job at the Korean restaurant with the witness and Jose. She confirms they did not use gloves in that restaurant. Then someone named John Carlito came to live with them. It's not clear to me if that is her partner or just somebody else, but whoever John Carlito is, he knew the brothers from where they originally came from in Venezuela. She again says that Diego is taller than Jose and thinner. The defense asked her if the morning of the murder, did she see anyone leaving the apartment, and she did not. The next witness, Special Agent Jamie Hipkiss from the FBI. He examined the electronics that were seized in the apartment after that data had been extracted by another member of the FBI. They examined 2 Samsung devices from inside the apartment and one that came from Jose. There's a little bit of back and forth here. The defense says that some of the slide in the witness's presentation contains lyrics that were translated from Spanish to English. She said she's not sure of the relevance of the lyrics and it's hearsay. The state says the agent who translated the lyrics will testify about the relevance because it relates to his state of mind before the murder. The defense says she disagrees. The lyrics were not written by him, but the state says those lyrics were posted by Jose just hours before the murder, and by posting them, he is adopting them as to his state of mind. The judge overruled that objection, and it came in. They sent subpoenas to Google, Snapchat, Cash App, TikTok, and T-Mobile. He goes through the photos that they found on these cell phones and just making it easy on prosecutors. Jose took a lot of photos of himself, including ones of him with a discarded jacket and the brim of a hat with an Adidas logo, just like the one he was seeing when he discarded that hooded jacket. There were 2 variations of the photo taken at 5:37 a.m. the day of the murder. He looked at all the selfies on that phone from August of 2023 up to the day of the murder. He said they do this because it helps them confirm that Jose was the main user of this phone. One shows Jose in a t-shirt with that distinct white pattern he was seen on surveillance wearing after taking that jacket off and discarding it. The photo from the Peeping Tom incident also shows a gray bag. He's seen wearing that gray bag in several selfies. There were also ways to verify this was mainly his phone. There was a photo of his New York identification card, documents with his date of birth, and also his address at the time he lived in New York City. The cell phone number was being used since August 10th of last year. They also confirmed that Jose's WhatsApp account corresponds to his phone number. They had deposits that he captured on his phone showing his bank account information. His main Google account was in his name as well. There were also 5 other Google accounts that were active on his device the day of the murder. The witness did find an account that belonged to Diego on that cell phone, but that account had been deleted January 16th, 2024, and they learned that from the Google search warrant. It wasn't even active on that phone in February. They also found a photo on WhatsApp from September 28th, 2023, showing that boarding pass from New York City to Atlanta. There is a video from October of last year, and they got a screenshot from that shows the gray sling style bag. There were photos from February 18th, just a few days before the murder, showing him in the shirt that he was seen on surveillance in, as well as that gray shoulder bag. February 21st, 2024, 9:30 p.m., the evening before the murder, there was a charge at a liquor store which was walking distance from Jose's apartment. The day of the murder, February 22nd of this year, on the call log, Jose tried to call Diego at 2:31 a.m. That call was unanswered by Diego. 4:30 a.m., Jose took a selfie with that shirt and hat and put that on Snapchat. There was a video at 5 a.m. They did translate the lyrics to those songs, and another witness will testify about that. There is a selfie in a hat and jacket from Snapchat at 5:37 a.m. and then another at 5:39 a.m. and that one had a song. The phone was plugged back in at 9:58 a.m. on the morning of the murder. The state points out to the witness that Jose is seen on surveillance at 9:44 a.m. discarding the jacket and the gloves and then walks into his apartment. There was a 6:20 a.m. outgoing message from WhatsApp. It had a video attached. That video was deleted and they never could recover it. But they note there was nothing outgoing again until 11:55 a.m. the day of the murder. Jose responds to a message from his wife. His TikTok account had the username Victor Franco. It was created February 13th of this year, and also it was connected to Jose's Facebook account. They show a photo from TikTok. This is a selfie that was posted just after midnight the day of the murder. They go through what was on his brother Diego's phone, and the state points out this phone did not have service the day of the murder. It was not connected to any cellular network. They looked at outgoing activity through the last internet connection. That was at 3:19 a.m., which was the last outgoing communication the day of the murder from Diego's phone. The next one was on WhatsApp at 3:24 p.m. the day of. On cross, you said there's no evidence that nobody other than Jose used this phone. The witness says that's correct on the day of the murder. But the defense asked if he's aware that other people used it. The witness said he looked, there was nothing substantial. Leading up to the murder, Jose was the only one using that phone. The defense talks about someone using that phone to use Grindr, which is an app used for finding same-sex dates, and asked if the witness read the detective's reports on it. The witness says no, but I have worked with them. The defense says that those detectives followed up with some of the contacts that were in communication on that Grindr app. The witness says he knows they did interview people. The defense asked if people were texting Jose's WhatsApp from that Grindr account communication, and the witness said they did, but it was not Jose they were talking to. By the way, they did not specify who in the house was using that Grindr app, but we do know it was not Jose. The defense asked if Diego's Facebook account was on that phone as well. The witness did additional research And they got some records from Facebook showing that Facebook was logged on January 25th of 2024, but they don't know if Diego used the phone, and the extraction did not show the login dates. They go back and forth a bit about this Facebook, but the witness says that Diego's phone was a Motorola and it was not a new one, so it didn't collect the data that Jose's did. And the witness compares Diego's phone and Jose's phone as a go-kart and a race car. And that brings us to our next witness, Agent Abasis Ramirez. She's a tactical specialist with the FBI. She is a Spanish speaker and interpreted lyrics as well as that jail call. They play the song from the Snapchat video at 5 a.m. the morning of the murder, and these are the lyrics. They want to see me fail, but I won't let them. My heart is that of a warrior. That's how the game rules are, and whoever breaks them will pay. The next set of lyrics from Snapchat at 5:37 a.m. I need motivation, not wanting to win. And if one day I lost my fear of losing, it hurts to have run, not to arrive. Now I know that the journey is also the goal. I've grown fears that I never educated, and I know the answers for not asking. 5:48 a.m., another set of lyrics on a video. I started, gave it all, fought, I trusted. But in love, I didn't do so well. I kept going. I tried. I fell. I got up. Moving on to the jail call. She reviewed 2,000. A lot of those were listed as having no substance, and she listened to 400 of those. Majority were between Jose and his wife. May 11th of this year at 6:41 p.m., they must have had a call drop previous to this jail call, and this is them resuming their conversation because he asked her if she can hear okay, and she says yes. She says they were talking about Jose going to look for a job. Jose said he went inside and spoke with the girl, and then his wife yells and says she's fed up and if he can just tell the truth. She asked if he's going to tell the truth or not. He says he went over there to look for a job. She keeps asking about what happened with that girl. Then she tells Jose not to expect her to come see him because they won't let me. She said immigration told her if she stepped foot there, she would be in trouble. She's asking over and over what happened with the girl and says that he has to know something. He keeps saying enough, okay. She asked if he smoked that day. He said no. She tells Jose she's fed up, and he says, you're fed up, okay. She said it's his fault that she's fed up. She says she thinks it's crazy they only have his DNA, and she doesn't understand how someone can see another person dying and not call 911. He says, enough, Laken, that's why I'm telling you. She says, no, you're not going to lie to me. I know you. You know something. He says, okay, Laken. Then she asks, where was El Gocho, or Diego, when he was out? And Jose says, in the bed. That was it. Next witness, Wesley Durkett. He's with the University of Georgia Police with the IT department. He looked at Laken's Garmin data from her watch. The chart tracked her location and her speed. He chose the time frame between 9:08 and 9:15 a.m. because that Garmin logs data every second. And there were over 30,000 data points for her Garmin during the entire time frame. So he said that he narrowed it down so you could see the peaks and the valleys. So let's run through a timeline of her heart rate as well as her speed she was running. 9:03 a.m. the run begins, and she is running around 7.7 miles per hour. That would make that a 7-minute mile. 9:08 a.m. her speed was 5.9 miles per hour. Her heart rate was 156. At this rate, it would be a 10.2-minute mile run. The next data point, they did not tell an exact time for this, but she was running 6.6 miles per hour. That would have been a 9-minute mile run. 9:10 a.m. and 39 seconds. There is an SOS attempt from Laken's phone. 9:10:44 a.m. Laken came to a complete stop. So she hit the SOS button, before she stopped. She must have seen him on the trail. 9, 10, and 50 seconds, she tried to call 911. 9, 11, and 6 seconds, she calls 911 from her phone. He explains to the judge how you make an SOS call on your iPhone. You have a few ways you can do that. From the lock screen, you swipe up, then the keypad comes up for your code. There's an emergency option on the bottom left, and when you hit that, the dial pad comes up and you call 911. That is how Laken called 911 for her heart rate. At 9:03 and 42 seconds, her run starts. Her heart stops at 9:28 a.m. and 23 seconds. At 12:37 p.m., you see on the Garmin data, her heart rate goes back up. However, that's from CPR attempts. So if you look, the first SOS attempt on her phone, 9, 10, and 39 seconds, her heart stops at 9:28 and 23 seconds. That's how long Laken fought for her life. Just can't even imagine, y'all. On cross, you told me you thought 911 had been called another way. The witness says after talking with other professionals, and this was after he talked to the defense, they determined the multi-press was not enabled on Laken's phone, but they could see in the data that the dial pad was loaded when 911 was being called. They asked if he can tell who disconnected the call. He said no, but clearly it wasn't Laken. The next witness is the graduate student who Jose peeped on. I'm not going to name her on here. I can't imagine the way this has affected her, knowing that if he would have gotten in her apartment, she very well could have been the victim that day or the first victim. We just don't know. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. She lives alone, and she is at the very end of the building on the first floor. The day of the murder, 7 a.m., she woke up and was in the shower when she heard jiggling sounds on her front door. Initially, she thought it was coming from another unit. She was in the shower when this happened. So when she got out of the shower, she hears it and realizes it's coming from her unit. She looked through the peephole and saw someone trying to get in. The person had a black hood up, a jacket, gloves, and that cap was low down, blocking their face. If you're not on YouTube, when I showed the selfies from him that he put on Snapchat, you will see his hat is pulled down a bit. The moment she said hello, the person ducked down and walked away. She went to get her phone to call 911. As she walked in the living room, she saw him again, and he was looking through her living room window. She said her blinds were open about 3/4 of the way, so she called 911 and reported someone was looking in her house as well as trying to get in. They played that 911 call. Dispatch stayed on the phone with her until police got there. They came in, took a statement, and left. Then she gets up and demonstrates for the court how she saw him. We did not see that on the live feed because she opted out of being recorded, understandably so. On cross, they asked the witness if she could see any of the face. She said no, it was just the cap, and then the hood was covering the cap. The defense says on the 911 call, you say you don't know if it's a man or a woman. This person is wearing a black hat and a black jacket. The witness says yes. The next witness, Officer Jonathan Simon, he responded to that Peeping Tom call by the previous witness. He got the call at 7:59 a.m., got to her unit at 8:06 a.m., and had body cam on. They played the body cam. We don't see it. He said the witness obviously was scared, and he said he used his customer service voice to calm her down. At the same time he is with her, there are other officers in the area looking for a potential suspect. In the body cam footage, you can hear it. He's pretty much asking her the same things that the witness testified to previously. On cross, the defense asked if he and the other officer came back an hour later. He said another officer came back around 9:40 a.m. to see if there was anybody suspicious in the area, but never saw anybody. The next witness, she frequently runs and walks on the campus trails where Laken was killed. The morning of February 22nd, this is some chilling testimony. It gave me chills the same way the graduate student's testimony did. This witness was running alone the morning of the murders on the same trail. She got to the trail about 8:20 a.m. and was wearing a Garmin watch. When she was going to the trails, she saw a lot of University of Georgia police cars out, which she said wasn't typical. She overheard an officer tell a student about suspicious activity, referring to that Peeping Tom situation. They show a map of her run, which was 6 miles that morning. At 8:24 a.m., as she's running, she sees a man on the trail near the retention pond wearing a jacket with the hood up, black gloves, dark pants, dark shoes, and this person was facing away from the trail. She never saw his face. The only thing she noticed other than the clothing was what looked to be a phone in his hands. She said it struck her odd. He didn't turn to look at her because you would have heard her coming. And other people that have been stationary on the trail turn and look if she's running. On cross, the defense asked, "You're sure about your time at 8:24 a.m. seeing this person?" Yes. Could you tell where the person was looking? The witness said away from the trail and away from the retention pond. The defense asked if this person was on or off the path. She said off. She was about 6 feet away from him as she passed. She did look back after she rounded a sharp turn just up ahead, and the person had not moved. She said she obviously sped up a bit going past this person. They asked if she said the shoes were dark colored. Yes. The last witness of the day, Special Agent Jake Burney, he is with the FBI CAST unit. They investigate historical and current cell phone mapping and tracking. So this is really technical, and I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can, which is quickly. Rubin data, from what I gather, is something that you get when your phone is connected to Wi-Fi. Once a phone is off of a Wi-Fi network, you do not get Rubin data, and that comes in kind of later on towards the end of his testimony. He shows Laken's phone activity from 9:03 to 9:53 a.m. the morning of the murder. At 9:03 a.m., Laken placed an outgoing phone call. 9:08, she gets on the trail. Between 9:10 and 2 seconds and 9:10 and 36 seconds, she is running on the trail. At 9:10 and 44 seconds, she comes to a complete stop. Between 9:11 and 9:14, the Garmin shows her going from on the trail to off into the woods. 9:11, we have that outgoing 911 call. 9:15 and 2 seconds is the last time her phone is in the vicinity of the actual trail. Between 9:15 and 9:26 a.m., there is a lot of activity with blue dots showing that her location is hitting in an area off the trail. You can tell there was a struggle. And I mean, Laken clearly fought this monster with everything she had. This testimony, y'all, just got to me because you kind of picture in your head what might have been her last moments. And oh God, I just can't even. At 9:26 and 53 seconds is when her heart rate drops to 0 and the Garmin stops the activity session. At 9:53 a.m., there is an incoming call. What about Jose's phone? 6:30 to 6:45 a.m., there is activity within the vicinity of his residence. 6:52 a.m., the phone is around 11 meters from the residence. That indicates to the witness he is leaving the apartment. 6:57 a.m., he's about 35 meters away from the residence. Now, that is an error radius included. It puts him at the grad student's residence when the Peeping Tom incident occurred. 7:02 to 7:07 a.m., he is near the bus stop where we have that surveillance of the Peeping Tom suspect. 7:16 to 7:59 a.m., the device checks in with 2 towers, which indicates movement. Between 7:35 and 7:52 a.m., he's back in the area of the grad student's building. From 7:52 to 8 a.m., the phone is moved somewhere in the vicinity of 47 meters. Between 8 a.m. and 8:59, there is movement with varying distances. Between 9 and 9:03 a.m., the device is somewhere in the vicinity of the Oconee Forest, which is where Laken was killed. He determines at 9:09 a.m. Laken is entering that forest area. You see their digital profiles start to get close to one another. Between 9:09 and 9:12 a.m., the Garmin shows Laken is on the trail, and that matches her phone data. During this time, you see an arc of their two digital profiles on the graphic, and their profiles are even closer. From 9:10 a.m. to 9:32 a.m., Laken and Jose's digital profiles overlap. 9:26 and 58 seconds is the last time her phone pings a location. Between 9:30 and 9:39, Jose's phone is getting closer to a tower, which means he's moving. He found Jose's phone was near the dumpster between 9:44 and 9:45 a.m. And then at 9:50 a.m., his phone is back in the apartment. So Jose leaves the apartment that morning, 6:52 a.m. He is back at 9:50. There was no location history on Diego's phone because it wasn't on the network. On cross, you don't have any information on where Diego's device was located within that relevant time frame. No. The defense asked, why did you use the word approximate when talking about locations? He said it depends on the technology. Both Jose and Laken's phone were on 4G, and the error rate with that is 78 meters or around 230 feet. So technically, the phones could be anywhere within that radius. The defense asked about Laken's device not being in a precise location. The witness says that interference can cause that, such as buildings or trees, but it's not a huge distance in the discrepancy. It's literally feet in the single digits. It's just not enough to write home about. The defense asks if weather affects the data. The witness says not really. They talk about this Rubin data and how there was no Wi-Fi in Oconee Park. How far did you have to go into Oconee Park when you lost the Wi-Fi signal? He said they saw Wi-Fi available at the edges of the park, but not super far in when you lost your Wi-Fi signal, maybe 15 meters inside and you were off Wi-Fi and had to rely on those cell signals, which is where you get the Rubin data. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with another update. I will be live streaming again at 8:30 in the morning. Come join us if you can. If not, I'll wrap it up for you again tomorrow. Have a good rest of your evening. We'll see you soon.